So Adam, tell me about yourself. Who is A-Team Adam?
Um, well, I kind of grew up in the heating and air conditioning business.
Mm.
It's been in my family for a long time. So my grandpa started doing it. My dad started in the 70s. So, I mean, I have pictures of myself standing next to my dad's train truck when he worked for Train,
Oh wow.
wearing a train shirt when I was probably 5 years old. So I've lived it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, I started helping my dad in probably going on jobs and that when I was around in third grade or so, just handing him tools when he started his own company.
Yeah.
And then when I got out of high school, I worked for him full time, started to learn, go to classes, this and that. And then 2012, he sold the company.
Okay.
And at that point, I just started my own company, and now he works for me again. So come full circle.
How does that make him feel?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, I think it's good that he stays busy right now,
Mm.
but I kind of feel bad in a way. But I think he'd be bored sitting at home. So
Oh man, one of those guys. Yeah. Once he's run out of building a back deck and fixing his boat, he's got nothing else to do. Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
And how long have you been with? So 2012 is when you started your company. So it's been 9 years now. Then yeah.
yep.
And you've been with HVAC 2.0 fairly recently, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I downloaded or I subscribed, whatever you would call it. I subscribed to the free account back probably, I don't know, 6 or so months ago. And then I kind of got intimidated by it and I pushed it to the side, forgot about it. But I joined the Facebook group. So I've just been listening to everyone and, just kind of eavesdropping in conversations and that. And then Nate came into one of the HVAC overtime shows. We brought him in, and just talking to him, it really, got the wheels turning in my head and made me more and more interested. And I had the opportunity to go meet with Nate at a friend of mine's house, Bill Russell. He did a covered consult on his house.
Yeah.
So I drove 5 hours to go check it out, and it was worth it. Everyone thought I was crazy because it was snowing. It was in the middle of winter. But I'm like, hey, I don't think I'll have an opportunity like this very often.
Gotcha. Right on. So for someone like you, Adam, who's a third generation HVAC installer, and I don't know, there are many people like that I have spoken to certainly, and someone who has his own HVAC show, who's been in the HVAC business for since you said, you're handing stuff to your dad since third grade. What about HVAC 2.0 really appealed to you?
Just like the data, you know what I mean? Like, that was one of the things that learning, because I learned a lot from my dad, but he owned the company. So he put me out with other guys, right? And some of the other guys that I learned from, they had a lot of rules of thumb that they would teach me. And I kind of listened to them, but it like didn't really make much sense, like following their rules of thumb. And the more classes I went to and the more I would read, and then YouTube popped up, started watching like Steve Raridan, all these other guys. And I'm like, my mind was just like, well, like just opened up, and I learned more and more, and I was just like a sponge trying to soak everything up. And same thing with, Manual J and everything else that 2.0 kind of encompasses that there's certain things that just don't make sense to me. And seeing the data that you can go through to size the system and house leakage and how to fix things and blah, blah, blah. It's just like, it's starting to like form a, HVAC is like a huge picture. It's a beautiful picture, but I feel like it's kind of like one of those paint by number things. And it's kind of like coloring in more and more of the picture. And it's kind of,
Wow. Can you give me an example of like some of these rules of thumbs that HVAC folks use that didn't really quite ring true to you, or you were like, maybe there's something there that I need to think deeply about?
Well, like early on, sizing equipment where they would tell you like a certain amount of square footage, BTUs per square footage or ton, square footage per ton, whatever like that. I'm like, because there's a 100-year-old house with no insulation, old windows, and then you have a 10-year-old house that's insulated fairly well. How could that possibly make any sense?
Mm.
And then another thing was charging air conditioners, charging condensers. And you would have like, that was a big thing where they would kind of say either just get your gauge to about this point, PSI, or you look at your saturation temperature over your outdoor ambient.
Mhm.
And I'm like, why do you have both? Why is there two gauges? And what are all these other numbers for? It doesn't make any sense.
And so have you asked them that? Did you ask them that when you were like learning with them?
I didn't because by the time I started figuring things out, they were already gone, and I was already kind of on my own. Well, not as a company, I was on my own working for my dad still,
Mhm.
and then YouTube just like. I think YouTube helped me so much. I went through so many different classes and this and that, but like when they show you something, but I think you really need to be careful with YouTube because there's a lot of bad information
Mm.
because anyone could post a video, right?
Right.
But if you have good common sense, you can kind of look at something and see if it makes sense to you or not, I guess.
Gotcha. So with the data that HVAC 2.0 comes with, how has that changed what you do how you run your business now?
Well, so far I mean, I am getting a lot more like skeptical on sizing,
Mm.
and that's number one. Number two, I am trying to figure out HVAC 2.0. Once I get it completely figured out, I want to start implementing it on a daily basis with all estimates and this and that. The one thing I think I'm going to struggle with though is getting my dad on board. But Nate and Ted and a couple other guys had an idea that I should do a consult at my dad's house and
Mm.
try to go through the whole process. Maybe I'll even go in his attic and air seal the top of the walls and all that, and
Gotcha.
try to tighten him up so then he's a believer in it, and we could start offering it.
What's the biggest challenge with your dad, do you think?
He's just old school, and he doesn't. It's like I feel like everything I do to change something, um, he doesn't fight it. He just doesn't like it. Like switching over from paper invoices to an online, cloud-based type deal. That was like a big deal. And then sending over handwritten estimates. He loved sitting there typing estimates out, and it would take him 45 minutes to type out an estimate. And then I moved to an estimating program where it's just like drag and drop stuff and you're done.
Yeah, yeah.
So every little thing is like, well, he's used to this way, even though it's not quite efficient, or they've come up with new ways that are more efficient of doing things.
Gotcha. Yeah, my dad's a doctor, and he makes the worst patient because
Yeah.
he can't stop questioning the doctor back. Like I've been to visits with him, and sometimes he's like, "Oh, why did you not try this?" And it's difficult for him to get into the mindset of I'm the patient now, and I got to listen to the other person, right? And I wonder if when you show up at your dad's place to do a comfort consult, I are you thinking about taping it?
I don't know. I think like for whatever reason, I'm really self-conscious about like the whole filming and YouTube thing and that in front of my dad. I don't know why it is, but I am. So I don't think I think if anything, like, because I'm starting to document my house, and I think I'd prefer taping it with him not there and
Yeah.
then showing him the end results of it. You know what I mean?
Staying with your dad for a moment, that attitude, right? Of you formed habits over your lifetime of doing things a certain way, and then when a younger person, it doesn't have to be a younger person, someone comes up with a new way of doing it, there is some reluctance to change the way you've been doing things. Like your dad's example, do you see that generally being true for a lot of contractors out there?
I definitely see that. I mean, I'm friends with a lot of different people that either own a company or that, work for different companies,
Yeah.
all across the country. And it's the same deal. You know what I mean? Somebody can come up with somebody posted just recently, I think on Facebook the other day, about this employee. I don't remember who it was, but they went to Brian Orr's symposium and they
Mhm.
learned all about MeasureQuick. And they came back to the company. They're like, we should be using MeasureQuick. And they're like, I don't know about that. And then he went out and he bought all the tools and he showed them how everything works. And they're like, well, maybe this is a good idea. So I think like everyone's just kind of hesitant on. I mean, there's a big debate right now just over like digital manifolds and probes, and
Yeah.
there's a kickback on that because people think it's new technology, and you don't need it. It's not accurate, even though it's really not that new. I had a digital manifold like over 10 years ago.
When you said HVAC 2.0 data, fantastic. What else about HVAC 2.0 really appealed to you? Looking at it from the outside and just
I really like which this kind of sounds, if a homeowner is listening to this, they probably be like, whoa, that's not a cool thing to say. But the responsibly remove responsibility,
yeah,
or which you're not trying to put something over on a homeowner or whatever. You're basically like, um, I want to get paid for my professional work and whatever. If I'm going to do a duct design, I want to get paid for the duct design. If you don't want to pay for a duct design, that's fine. You know what I mean? I'll do whatever duct work you want me to put in. If you don't want to pay for a load calculation, you have an 80,000 BTU furnace, I'll put another 80,000 BTU furnace in. You're opting, you don't want to pay for my professional service, so I'll take that off the table and I'll just do whatever you want me to do. You know what I mean? And
gotcha.
that's because it makes it easier to compete with guys that are not offering a premium service. So you're not going to price yourself out of the ballpark on jobs that people don't want to pay for that.
Right.
You offer it to them and they decline it, you're covered. You're fine. You know what I mean?
Yep. And so you're sharing the responsibility for this with the homeowner and having them have some skin in the game
Yes.
so that you're not the one who's left holding the bag if they are unhappy with the result.
Right. Exactly.
So you go in there as an expert and it's on them to engage you as an expert.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you were talking about?
Exactly. You're just, you give them basically a menu.
Yeah.
You give them options and they pick their own path. And that's it. You don't have to, you're not selling. It's not like, hey, I need to sell this $15,000 system. I'll sell you a $3,000 system. Whatever you want to buy, whatever you want to spend, it's fine with me.
And so what do you wish homeowners knew more when they hire contractors like you, like experienced, elite level service contractors like you?
What it would be nice for them to understand that, because I think a lot of the number one thing that bothers me is homeowners like shop furnaces and HVAC systems like they're shopping for refrigerators. You know what I mean? And they think, hey, well, there's a Maytag at Home Depot, but I can get my Maytag at Lowe's for $100 cheaper. I'm going to go to Lowe's. Well, guess what? We're just not stocking these boxes and pushing them to the front of the store for you. There's way more that goes involved, that is involved with installing them than even the equipment itself. So when people are, they say Goodman's garbage or Carrier sucks or this or that, dude, there's a reason why they suck. You know what I mean? It's because there's boneheads installing them and screwing them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So HVAC is not like replacing your fridge or light bulb. Every HVAC install is a custom install, more or less. Is that right?
Yep.
And so it's not just plug and play, but you need some expertise at the contractor level to get what you want out of HVAC. Yep. And so what you're saying is what you want homeowners to know is to appreciate the installation and the service part of it more, rather than just relying on systems and
Right.
buying a cheaper system.
And even if you had two different companies, And the one guy is working out of his garage,
Mm.
and he's super awesome at what he does. He does a great job. He's very experienced. And then you have somebody that has more of an established company. He might charge a little bit more money. He has more employees. Um, are you going to get a better job one way or another? Probably not. But when it comes like long-term service-wise, I've had many customers call me. We had a furnace installed, and the guy's out of town. Went on vacation for 2 weeks, so and it broke down. We can't get him to fix it. And it's like, well, you saved $300. Congratulations. You know what I mean? Now
Right.
you have to pay to have somebody else fix it.
Right.
So
So the problem to me seems like homeowners don't know or don't have a good way of evaluating the merits or the craftsmanship or the quality of finished product of contractors before they hire someone, right? Because oftentimes you have to get an HVAC contractor in your home, hopefully once every 15, 20 years when it breaks. And because they don't know in advance how to evaluate a good contractor from a bad contractor, they just end up defaulting to the cheapest quote.
yeah.
And to me, it seems like a lot of bad contractors know this. So they don't waste a lot of time in trying to optimize for design, or spec the home, do a blower door test, actually design for the home. They just want to get the cheapest quote. So they'll just go and replace the system like for like, whether or not it was actually doing the job for the house. They'll just replace it like for like. And whereas people like you who take home comfort more seriously and want to design more systems to meet the spec, I feel like are undercut by these guys who just want to go in and do a quick install job and get out. Because whatever problems show up, they're not going to show up. And homeowners don't know how to evaluate the quality of that. The problems will only show up a couple of months down the road.
Yeah.
So how do we break this cycle? Or how does HVAC 2.0 play into
I think the whole thing, I think, well, I mean, I'm going to get a little political here, which I know this is something that we try to steer clear of in overtime. We don't talk about religion. We don't talk about politics. It's just because we don't want to offend anyone, right?
Yeah.
But I think like the whole idea of education and free education across the board is amazing, because not even just talking about HVAC, the country in general, if you could give free education, it would benefit everyone. Everyone. And now you bring it into HVAC. If you could educate homeowners on why this is important, why energy efficiency, not just saying like, screw energy efficiency. Let's not talk about saving money, but efficiency, like an efficient home. Why is that important? Why is it going to be important to you? And then you educate why is it important that these contractors are good at what they do and they're knowledgeable. And then you educate all the contractors and listen, you think you're good, but you're really not. You know what I mean? And because I think a lot of people want to be good. Yep. They just don't know how to be good. You know what I mean? So I think education is like huge on every.
So Adam, I want to. So where does A-Team Adam go from here? A year from now, I want to do this again a year from now, and to see where you are today and where you want to be a year from now, and see what that looks like a year from now.
I mean, I'm starting to dive into my house. That's number one. I want to start like looking at what moves the needle for people. You know what I mean? Like, my house is, I have a just under 1,900 square foot house. My blower door was 2,800. Okay. CFM 50.
How old is the house?
From the 60s.
Okay.
So I have a fireplace. I have different things, and but I want to start doing one item at a time and seeing what's moving, so I could like just have experience, which I know experience will come with talking to a bunch of you guys. What changes things, but I want to be knowledgeable on it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I'm not going to start the process with anyone else. I'm just saying I'm going to seriously experiment. And so Saturday I got home, my wife's like, do you want to watch TV? I sat down on the couch for a few minutes. I'm like, I can't do this. So I set up the blower door. and I hooked it back up to my front door. Going around again with the thermal imager, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm like pinpointing more and more stuff, you know.
Man, you're a mad scientist, HVAC guy. I'll tell you that. No, seriously, right? That's very few people are curious. It's not. This is not just about HVAC contractors. Very few people will step away from the comfort of a couch on a Saturday night and go tinker in their lab, which is basically what you're doing, right?
I love knowledge, and that's like, I don't really, honestly, I probably don't even care about fixing my house. My wife would care more if I went through the whole console thing with her, because you know, it smells musty. I hate the bathroom, this and that. The way, you know, and for me, I'm a guy. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, you know, and it just we didn't have the luxuries of everything, and I'm kind of like a rough around the edges, whatever, but like I want to be able to fix it. Like I just want to have the knowledge to fix things. Like, do I care about? I want to make my wife happy.
Yes,
I'd live in a box if it was like I'm not going to die of hypothermia. You know.
That was same here. Yeah, but that box would be the best, you know, efficient box that. So is that what gets you out of bed in the morning? Is expanding your knowledge, learning more?
I love, yeah, definitely. Like if there's a day where I could learn something, I love it. One thing that I love the learning why too. I don't like learning rules. I like learning why the rules are there. And the reason being, this sounds stupid, but some rules you can break. You need to know why the rules are there. So, you know, I can break it because of this, and I'm going to still accomplish my end result while still breaking this. I just want to know how everything's put together and how everything works. So, because I think you could do a better, well-rounded job at something than necessarily always, you know, walking in a straight path, following every single rule.
Gotcha. And how many folks do you have working for you right now?
I am shorthanded right now. I have my cousin works in the office, and I have my dad, and I have another helper. So I could definitely use another 2 guys.
Gotcha. And I was just going to ask, are people catching what you're pitching on this stuff? People you train and things like that.
So I didn't really need my helper to come with. I did a consult for a friend of mine on Saturday, and he didn't really need to come, but I'm like, are you interested in this at all? He's like, oh, definitely. So he came with, and he's usually very quiet on the ride back. But as soon as we left there, he's like, this is really good. People are going to like this. He's like, nice. You're figuring out why the house is not good. He's like, and you're testing it. This is so good.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
So Adam, how can HVAC 2.0 support you on your journey, man?
Well, I'm starting to get older, and it's harder for me to crawl around in crawl spaces for 2 days straight and lug heavy furnaces and condensers day in, day out. And the way I see 2.0 is you could slow down a little bit. You could get paid for the things you don't usually get paid for.
Yeah.
You could potentially maybe stretch out a job into a couple days instead of hey, we need to slam dunk this in a day. So instead of doing, 3 furnaces and 3 condensers over 3 days, maybe you're doing 1, and you don't have to lift heavy stuff for 2 days. You're just kind of like QCing and maybe air sealing and overseeing a project or whatever. Or maybe you're doing a little bit of duct work. I don't know, but you can get paid. You could charge for your knowledge. You get higher dollar tickets per job, and you don't have to necessarily sell a box to every person to go home with a paycheck,
Gotcha. So you're not in there trying to make a quick sale so you can go to the next person, next sale, lugging furnaces in and out. You could take your time with it, have people trust and value your expertise, and solve problems for people. And there's a lot of, you get paid for that. But does that feel more fulfilling in some way?
It does. And you want referrals. That's the way to get referrals, where somebody's like, my 3rd floor has sucked, and we never were able to use our 3rd floor. And after this guy came out, he, spent X amount of time, and now it's fine. It's just as comfortable as the 1st floor. We could live in our 3rd floor. And when you're able to solve problems like that, and I guess that's another big thing with heating and air companies, in my experience, there's a lot of companies out there that actually create new problems for people. They're not solving problems, they're creating more problems, you know?
So is that a cynical way of just getting more service calls, or is it just a consequence of not doing a good job?
I think it's a constant. Well, I don't see. Yeah, they're not doing a good job, but I don't think it's like purposely not doing a good job. Maybe some people are just like, let's hurry up and get this done. But I think it's like a consequence of not really having knowledge on how to fix things. And, you know, the reason why, like, you need to know why. Why is this room drafty? Why do you want to run a bigger duct to this room? Do you need a bigger duct to this room? Like, let's just keep upsizing this furnace. Does that make sense? Maybe you should fix the house, you know?
Right. Right. And so you being the data guy, do you keep track of your own like sort of closing rates or like sales to service ratios and all these things?
I have a program
Yeah.
that kind of does it for me. So, which I just started the program. So right now we're kind of slow right now. It's the spring. I've been using it for maybe a month and a half, and
Yeah.
so I'm at like a 50% closing rate on regular estimates right now, you know.
That seems about par for the industry, right? Better than par for the industry, 50%, 52%. A lot of guys would be happy with that.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah. I mean, I could always, I'd be happier with 60%, you know, but.
Gotcha. And what's your average ticket price like right now?
Right now in the last 30 days, I just looked at it this morning on a report. It was like 6,800 for, not for a service call, but for replacements. My average for the last 30 days, 6,800.
And do you have any, where do you see yourself? Where do you think you'll be a year from now?
I'd love to implement this and ask the questions, the 4 questions going into every estimate, and lead somebody, give them their path A, path B, you know, just let them make their own decision.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully if I get a handful of 2.0 jobs, that would be awesome. You know, taking 2.0 out of it, I would love to be able to have another 1 or 2 employees and, you know, take a little stress off my plate.
Gotcha. Awesome, man. And you know, I'm sorry. Thanks a lot for spending time with me today. You know, I'll be honest with you. When I got into this call, I was a little self-conscious because you have a show for yourself, and I'm just like doing this running this off the side of my desk. So it's like getting.
I don't know what I'm doing.
It's like getting Joe Rogan.
Huh?
It's like trying to get Joe Rogan on your podcast, right? You're just getting started. It's like.
Yeah, I guess. I wish I was Joe Rogan. That would be sweet. I wouldn't have to worry about addicts ever again.
I learned a lot from you today, man. I really appreciate that a lot.
It's awesome to hear.
Because not always do you get a chance to learn, like really learn from someone who's on top of their game, you know? And so I value that a lot, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good night, sir.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.